Hello, Craig Howard here again this morning. Happy to share these times of devotions with you. Thank you to those of you that click your share button on Facebook and share them with other people. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for having enough confidence in what we're trying to do to just share a quick devotional that you think it's worthwhile to share with some other folks. And for those of you that get it on YouTube and pass that information on through YouTube, I thank you for that. And you're welcome to click subscribe on YouTube and share it around that way. But I was thinking about medieval times, back in the days of the knights and the kings and the round table and all that, and I thought about the oath that kings had to take back then, or that kings took back then. And when they would take an oath to be king, the oath included a couple of elements. It included that they would be the protector of the realm, and it also included that they would be the keepers of the faith. They would be protectors of the realm and keepers of the faith. And I thought about that phrase, keepers of the faith, and I thought, well, what does that mean? What is a keeper of the faith? And so I did a little bit of Bible study this morning, and I was drawn back to a passage in 2 Timothy, one that I know you're familiar with, and I tried to look at other passages. I looked at a bunch of passages because I tried to look at passages that we weren't just familiar with, so I wasn't just going back to an old familiar passage. But this passage really said a lot to me. In 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 3, I saw it in a little bit of a different light. Paul is writing to Timothy, and he said, when I call to remembrance the genuine faith that is in you, which dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, I am persuaded is in you also. And I thought about how that faith was so lived out. How do you keep the faith? Well, Lois and Eunice, Timothy's mother and grandmother, apparently accomplished it. Apparently they did it. They kept the faith in such a way that it was passed on to Timothy. And when I thought about that, I thought, here are these two women that lived out their faith in such a way. They lived it every day. They lived it in a way that Timothy saw it, that Timothy experienced it. It wasn't just something they talked about. It was something that they genuinely made a part of their everyday lives. They lived it. They didn't just say, yes, I have faith. They showed it in the way in what they did, in the things they said, in the places they went, in the way they treated people, in the way they interacted with God, in the way they prayed. They lived that faith, and that's the way you keep the faith. You don't just talk about it. You don't just go to church on Sunday mornings. You don't just listen to a devotional in the morning on the internet. You live it throughout the day. You talk to God throughout the day. You interact with Him. You trust His judgment. You trust His guidance as you're faced with decisions. You go to the Word of God and you find the principles in the Word of God that apply to that situation and to the decision you have to make, and you realize that God has something to say about every aspect of your life in His Word, and so you trust by going back to His Word that you can receive the guidance that you need to make the right decision, and then you live that out in front of the people around you. There are no hard, fast promises. There's nothing that I can say, if I do this and this and this and this, my kids are always going to turn out right. I wish it worked that way. Everybody is a unique individual. Everybody has their own choices that they can make. But the fact is that we do have this idea that if I live out my faith, there is at least the potential for my kids to see it and it become part of their life as well. There's no guarantee that our kids aren't going to have problems, that our kids aren't going to have difficulties, or that they're not going to get into something they shouldn't. But if I can live out my faith, and that means in the way I treat my children, in the way I interact with my children, in the way I interact with others, if I can live in a way that they can see Christ's example in my life, I've got a chance. I've got a better chance of my children turning out the way I want to. So you that are younger, you teenagers that are younger, one day you're going to be parents. And I want you to think about that. You also need to develop a faith that is going to give your kids a chance to have a relationship with God and not go down some path of alcohol or drugs or some other terrible path that's going to destroy them. They need to learn from you. So right now is the time to start practicing. Right now is the time to start establishing your faith. Well, something to think about today. I hope it's encouragement to you. I hope it's a challenge to you. I hope today you'll find ways to live your faith out in ways that you never have before, and I hope you find the blessing in it as well. Have a great day today. God bless you.